Hi everyone, welcome to the Memory Ornament Workshop. My name is Madison Palamichael Klein and I'm the designer and founder of Memoir Design Studio. I started Memoir Design Studio 2 years ago now, one day when I was going through my grandfather's clothing. He passed away in 2017 and we were extremely close. And I was finding that I kept going into his closet just to feel the essence of him, feel that he's still around. And one day, we were starting to go through his clothing. It was hard. I knew that there were certain shirts that I wanted to keep, and my grandpa, had been wearing the same shirts my entire life. So these garments, were stained, they were ripped, but they still had, special moments and pieces to me. I still didn't want to just see them thrown out. So then I just decided to start playing with them, building color stories, seeing how I could wear them. And slowly I started getting compliments. So that kind of gave me the idea that I could upcycle them more into new designs and create things like the ornaments that we're gonna make today that I could also share with family members. At Memoir Design Studio, we work through donations where you can box up and send us your pre-loved items of a loved one that's passed away. We'll send you a prepaid postage label, super easy. And then we'll take those garments and recreate them, redesign them, and resell them to our conscious consumers. Or our second service is doing custom designs where you can send in, a specific shirt that you want to be able to wear yourself that we can recreate into a brand new design, one-of-a-kind piece for you. Or we also can do custom ornaments like the ones we're making today, teddy bears, pillows. We'll have a consultation and we can, help you figure out a way to remember your loved one through any piece of their wardrobe. Today we are going to walk you through how to make our little star ornament that will be upcycled out of one of your loved one's garments.
You can put it by your computer, you don't see your computer. You don't have to chug it.
Making the ornaments, came about this Christmas. I decided that it would be a great gift to give back to my family and friends. So it became a zero waste project where I didn't want to go buy all of the stuffing that you have to put inside that bad for the environment. So I was just using the scrap fabrics from cutting the ornaments out, or I'll take more of that same garment and cut up the pieces to stuff it. So in the end, the whole garment gets used. There's, I don't use the trims, I don't use buttons or zippers while stuffing, but the whole garment gets used, putting into the ornament, and then you have a gift that you can cherish forever, your family can cherish, you can share with whoever you want. Let's go over the supply list that we provided for you. All you need is the garment of a loved one that's passed away. The fabrications that seem to work best are a fleece, denim, something that doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. Woven fabrics are good. And then you're gonna need thread that matches. You'll need a pair of scissors, your sewing machine. This one was my mother's in the 90s. Hand sewing needle, the star pattern that hopefully you were able to print and cut out already. So we have our star pattern. Then a ribbon of your choice, 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch works best. Pins, your marking pen, and an iron, and then a ruler or sewing gauge. So here we have one of my grandfather's shirts that I will be using today to show you how to make the ornaments. You can see it's a little bit cut up already. It looks like a shirt. I've been making star ornaments out of this already for family members over the year. Really the idea is that you can make as many ornaments as you can out of it, cut off the trims, and then the rest, any scrap fabrics, will be used as the stuffing. And then if we feel like we are running out of stuffing, you can make more by cutting this into small pieces. So I will walk you through exactly how we do that, and yeah. After you iron the shirt, we're going to take it and I'm just gonna unbutton it so that we can really lay out all of the fabric. And we're going to lay out the part where we want to start cutting out ornaments from. So once you get a nice flat surface, take the pattern and I like to lay it out kind of following the line of the plaid here. Really, to me, it's just about getting the maximum amount of ornaments out of the garment that you can. Take your fabric marker and you're just going to start to trace around your pattern. I'm using a Sharpie just because of the fabric that I have, but you can use chalk, you can use an actual fabric pen. Any mark that you make is going to end up being put into the seam allowance anyways. And then two, if you want to mark the notches as you trace, you can do that. Or I can show you too how you can clip them once we cut it out. This is super exciting to do. So for one ornament, you're going to need 2 of the patterns. See here how I'm trying to use as much of the fabric as I can in order to, get the spacing where we'll have less scraps in the end. Really, you can cut out as many of the ornaments as you want, and again, the whole idea is that the rest of the shirt is going to become the stuffing in the end. So yeah, do it as you wish. Voila. So next you're going to cut out following the line. And then just make sure that any piece of scrap fabric that you use, you set to the side because we are going to need that later. Cutting out cute ornaments so that we can see and love and cherish those people in our life. These make great Christmas presents, birthday gifts, or even just, if you have recently had somebody pass and you just want to kind of give that special gift to brighten somebody's day. These are also a great way to do that. There's one completely cut. I even recently made a set of ornaments for a friend who lost one of her friends due to COVID. And she had one of the girls' dresses and wanted ornaments made to give to the girl's entire family. So we were able to make really cute heart ornaments for them. Trim around. Okay, so then once you have your front and your back pieces cut out, I like to take the pattern and just lay it on top. Make sure that there aren't any crazy issues where you need to trim it down more. If you do see that there's more fabric on one little piece than the other, I just kind of like to retrace the pattern so that you get it to be a little bit closer. And then you will just go ahead and trim that little section. So do that to both of them. pretty good, but we just want to clean up those little lines. And then we'll take the normal scissors and just give a little notch where I drew. Make sure that the notch isn't too deep. You don't want it to go into the seam allowance. It's just a little clipping to indicate where you're at, where you want to be. Remember the markings to know where to place the ribbon and where to start and stop sewing. I also like notching right here. That way when we're sewing, you can still perfect with the sewing machine the little deep corner of the star and then perfect the curve along here. So that's why I like to choose this little section of the star where we will stuff. Once that's done, you're going to take the two sides and you are going to lay the right sides facing each other, just like so. And then just do a general pinning all the way around. And then once we pin the star together, I'm going to show you kind of how to insert the ribbon. So you want to make sure you add the ribbon before you start sewing so that it's actually held within the seam. I also like making the pins facing out. So once you have it all pinned, just make sure that you find that little notch at the top so you know where the top of the star is. You can see here. Then you are going to want to take your ribbon and measure out a piece that is 7 inches total in length. You can kind of eyeball it a little bit. I like to have it where there's about 1 inch that will be on the inside of the ornament and then a 2.5 inch loop on the outside. So once you have your piece of ribbon, just fold it together, and then where you made the notch in the pins, and you'll just kind of stuff it on the inside, trying to make sure that it's, you know, staying in line with the center and won't end up in any of your seam allowance. And then you can take the two edges, again, kind of measure about 1 inch out, line them up over top of the notch, and then place a pin that will be easy to pull out later. Then once that's there, I also like to give it a little crisscross pinning just to keep it in place. Okay, so now we're going to sew the ornament. So we're going to start, so where that bottom notch is where you're going to want to start. So it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So for me, it's about at the edge of the silver foot. So I'm gonna put my foot down. I have my stitch length set to 2.5. And then we're just going to give it a couple stitches, a couple back stitches, come around. So the key here is to start off making sure that this bottom part of the star has a nice curve. So we do a few stitches and then we turn it so that the foot is following along. So we'll do a few stitches and we'll turn. And then when you get close to your pin, that's when you'll want to remove it. And then we'll do a few stitches, turn, a few stitches, turn. And when I turn, I like to lift the foot because it makes turn. And then as you come to the inner point of the star, I like to take it slow so that way you can then check and kind of turn and make sure that you're in line. When it looks good, you can keep continuing around. So we go straight here with this edge. And again, when the curve starts to come up, lift and turn. So a few spots, lift, turn, remove your pin, preferably before your needle goes over it. You don't want to break the sewing machine's needle or make it so that the pin flies out and cuts you. Lift and turn, make sure that everything is flat. Come around. Remove your pin. And so here too, where we're getting kind of close to the ribbon, you can kind of feel it in there. So again, just make sure that it hasn't somehow flown over to the side. Come around. When you think you're getting close, check. You can kind of see here that I'm not close enough to the middle, so I'm gonna go one more stitch or two. Come around, flip, go down the straight line. And then here, this is where you want to make sure that you're keeping the ribbon in line with the top of the star. So to remove the pin slowly as you come around. Turn. Turn. And then right here, this is when you'll want to remove that first pin because your presser foot is keeping the ribbon in place, and you'll come through. And then once you've crossed it, that's when it's a good point to start turning again. Take out your last pin. Take out your pins. Check where you're at. And I'm gonna go one more. Turn. Take out your pin. And then here's where we're getting close to where you started. So you'll come down to that corner. Again, check, make sure you like where you're at. Again, I don't know why I always stop one too soon, so come back. And then here you're just going to sew a little bit into that first notch. You really want to make sure that you don't go too deep so your hole's too tiny. It's just going to make it harder when you try to stuff it and when you have to flip it inside out. So really, I'd go about 4 steps and then back stitch there. Lift up your foot, pull it out, and then you'll trim away all your threads. Trim away all your threads. After you finish sewing, you're going to want to trim your corners up to the thread, but don't cut through the stitch. This is just going to help give your star a nice sharp point there. And I like to do this before I trim around the seam allowance. I just think that it's a little bit easier to control, and that way you really don't cut through the thread. My scissors need sharpened, I think. So cut up to those edges. And then once that's done, I'm taking my painting shears again, just personal preference, and I'm going to trim around the seam allowance. I don't trim the seam allowance at the opening just because sometimes you'll get a little bit of unraveling as you stuff. And then here I don't trim the ribbon just to make sure that it stays, but I'll lift up the edge and I will trim the seam allowance around it. So starting down here at the edge, I'm just going to take off a little bit of the extra fabric. But really, this is just you getting a head start on making stuffing for the ornaments. Because we are going to keep all of these little pieces, and the little scraps like this are my personal favorite. So again, I just kind of take off around the ribbon. And then again, stopping before the opening. Look at that beautiful stuffing. And here you go, nice and trimmed up. So next we're going to flip it inside out. So just take your opening and just slowly start to turn it inside out. My favorite part is when you find the little ribbon popping through and give it a little pull. Boop. So you just want to make sure that you press out all of your corners of the star. Find them, flip them through. I like to give it a little nice happy roll, a little massage on the star. That way you can kind of roll out the seams, see it all coming to life. You can also take a pencil or some type of utensil if you need help pressing out the corners, or if you have, one of the tools that helps reverse things, you could use that too. But it should be pretty simple. You can just kind of get your fingers in there, roll it out, and then here you'll see where the little opening is, and that is where we will stuff it at. And there you go, a little star. So once you're done sewing it and you've turned it inside out, then you just want to take it over to your iron, give it a quick press. I just like to do it so that way, you really get the seams nice and rolled through. And now we are going to take all of the scraps from cutting out our ornaments, as well as, we can always add more from the garment as we go. But first we're just going to take all of the scraps that we have and just start making even tinier pieces with any of the bigger guys. So we'll start with this little pile that we've made here first. So take your ornament, the opening, and you're just literally going to take the pieces and start pushing them through the hole. Then once you start getting in, a certain amount, I like to just start moving it to the top of each point of the star, so that you can really see how much more you need and space it out. So then again, just kind of move it along where you want it to be. But as you can see, we still need some more, so let's make some more stuffing. I'm going to take specifically right now from the shirt, like this whole little front section, just because there's not much space that I could even make an ornament out of. So I'm gonna start with that. So I'm just literally going to take it for this ornament and cut off the top. And then there's buttons on it, so I'm literally just going to remove the buttons so that those don't end up in the star, but I will save them and keep them on the side for future projects. So once it's feeling pretty stuffed, you can kind of squish it around, make sure that it's all evenly dispersed. And then you'll just want to make sure that you're still remembering to fill up this inside of the star's point. So even though you have the hole there and some of it might be poking out, just really shove it in there. And right now, like, it's okay that I still have some scraps left because I still have so much more of the garment to continue to make ornaments out of. But this is kind of why I like to do it in stages where I'll make a few, stuff them, make a few, stuff them, just so that I'm making sure that I am utilizing everything that I can and nothing goes to waste. All right, so once he's pretty well stuffed, see how this corner looks? You just give it a fold right where the seam allowance is. Make sure all raw edges are turned under. Take one of your pins and just stick it through, and then this is where we will do a little bit of hand sewing. There's your little guy. So next we're going to hand stitch this little opening closed. I always like to start at this end of the ornament because I find that the thread gets wrapped around this side if you start from here too much as you're going. So we'll start from this end, but first we're going to thread our needle. So for this, I like to use a thinner needle. Take one out of my little box here. There you go. And if you already have thread attached to the sewing machine that matches, just take a decently long piece of that. So just thread it through, pull it all the way down. I like to do it where it's doubled. Then at the end, an easy way to knot it. Sorry, my hands are turning blue from the marker in the fabric. Just take your finger, give the thread a wrap around, roll it. You're gonna roll it off your finger and then pull, and then that's gonna give you a nice secure knot at the end of the thread. Just a quick little way to thread your needle. Then next, I am gonna turn it this way just to start. I'm gonna take this and actually put it through a little bit where the stitching still is. And then you are going to turn it back to this side. And then just go right along that little folded edge. So come on one side, make sure that you don't get any knots at the bottom, pull it through, and then do the same to the other side. And you really only need to grab about that much of the fabric when you're doing this. Again, pull it through. Sometimes I like to guide it with my other finger. And you're just gonna close that up. If you're comfortable with it, sometimes I'll, at this point, take the pin out and just kind of keep it closed with my other hand. While you're doing it, if you do get any little pieces that start to pop through of the edge of the fabric, just push them back down. And then keep going. Nope, nope. See, you gotta be careful. You don't want that to get caught around the edge. Then once you get to the last spot, you're just going to want to tie a knot. There's kind of two ways you can do this. You can either just run it through twice. I like to run it through, and then when it gets a little bit smaller, you go through both pieces of the thread. Make sure that it is there, and then just pull it tight so you get a nice tight knot. You can even just give it one more stitch through just to be sure that it's nice and tight in there. Again, making sure your thread doesn't get tangled is key. Once you're done with that, snip it and give it a little fluff love. Your perfect little star ornament, for me, made out of my grandpa's shirt that you can hang in your car, hang in your bedroom, gift to family members, and cherish forever. You can, keep it as is if you like the simplicity of it. You can also jazz it up however you want. One option is to get little photo frames. I had a sketch done of my grandfather that I just printed out on paper and then bought these little photo frames from any craft store. You glue the picture in, and then you can easily add a little charm that hangs along the ornament. Tie it in a bow around it like so. That's one option. Another option is any other type of, decorative trim, bells, beads that you have. Maybe you even have a piece of jewelry that belongs to the person that you lost that you want to tie around it. Make pom-poms, but then just one more little detail to just make it special any way that you wish. Thank you so much for joining us today to make your Memory Star ornament. I hope you enjoyed the class. Let us know if you have any questions. You can follow us on Instagram at Memoir Design Studio. Send your before and after images and tag Sustainable Fashion Week as well as our account. You can also visit our website at memoirdesignstudio.com. Yeah, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoy and share your photos with us. Want to do it again? Let's do it again.